YouTube, as you notice here, you should be able to see, if you can. Okay, thanks, Mark. Taking a look, as you can see, markets. There we go. Now, I'll start the recording. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dennis Wilborn, one of the active trend traders. Welcome to today's session. Before I switch over to the intro sheet, I just want to say, hey, the markets are down. The markets were doing so well earlier on. However, we got a little bit of bad, some additional news out of China or out of the White House, basically saying that that they may limit the amount of U.S. Investments in China, and the market then sold off. And anybody else getting really sick and tired of this stuff? This whippy market that's going absolutely nuts. Well, let me do the intro and then we will proceed on. I've got a lot of good stuff to cover today. And so let's see. There we go. And again, I am Dennis Wilborn, the active trend trader. Welcome to today's session of how to make money trading stocks. And that's our weekly live stream. And so, okay, Steve, we'll get a radio check with you just here shortly. He was saying he can now hear us. So can everybody else hear okay? Just give me a real quick either thumbs up or just put a big Y in the comments. If you do have a comment for us, great. Thanks, Rocco. If you do have a comment for us, please go to the chat board. That way that it gets recorded, and I look at those afterwards. So the essence of learning how to trade and trade well is primarily learning how to focus on the process and let the profits follow. Although that is very sometimes challenging to do because we have psychological connections to that wonderful green stuff that's in our pockets called money. And some of the psychological attachments we have to money can basically show up as a trader in the most inopportune time. From the aspect of it tends to happen when we want to, do well, but we wind up self-destructing. So that is one of the things we have to be watching out for. I want to remind everybody that all the materials we do present are for trading purposes. Only traders should always paper trade any new method prior to the risk of your own personal capital. We plan on going somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes in today's session. Mark, I will forward you that invite. Are you talking to the next session that we do for premium members? I'll forward that to you afterwards if you have not got that invite. So let's take a look at our objective for today. Basically, it's just timely, actionable intel at the end of each week, seeking to clarify, simplify market decisions so wealth can be multiplied. The market continues to be uncommitted to a direction. It is just slopping around in a range that we'll take a look at here momentarily, but just slopping around in a range, not giving us any real good indication of where it wants to go. And so it's kind of a real pain in the rear to be able to trade. So we have a couple of choices. Trade from either support or resistance. If the upside of that is if you're trading from support or resistance, if you're trading to the downside from resistance, you're really close to your stop loss. In other words, if it breaks out of resistance, you get out of the trade, get out of town. If you are trading a long trade from support and it breaks support, you get out of town. Same thing. There's no reason to sit there, I'm going to stand in line for a 5% stop. No. If it breaks a strong support resistance, get the heck out of Dodge. And so finally, choice number 2, stand aside. Sometimes that's like really good. Oftentimes we forget that cash is a position. So, and then lastly, while we're waiting for the market to kind of right itself, if you will, look for stocks that are holding up well. I've got a list of a few of them that we'll chat about here. I know Steve's going to cover one, most skosh in the markets. And so then the rest of what we do is take a look at stocks, ETFs, performance, bonus setups, if we have any available. And then you remember, you've been given the keys. Now learn how to open the door. I want to touch on, I'll get today started with, we are in this part of the year, okay? The last part of September does in fact look like this, but will seasonality on NASDAQ kick in so that we get this really nice, what oftentimes happens is a very nice runaway from October through the end of December. A lot of people call this a Santa Claus rally. Sometimes people just call it the end of year rally. Is that going to happen this year? We don't know. I mean, it could be like last year. And what happened last year? It chunked itself and fell out of the sky in October, November into, we kept waiting for the Christmas rally to kick in. And guess what? It happened the day after Christmas. And that's all we got. But it led to a real strong opening in 2019. Same thing with our buddy, the Russell. Russell has been just the real lagger of all the indexes. Will it kick off from a low here in October? And if seasonality does kick in on the Russell tends to run strong, run hotter than the other indexes. So that's one of the reasons why I keep my eye on Russell, because heavens, if it kicks off and we can find a level of support to buy into it, the Russell could look good going forward. Here's where we're sitting at about 9 o'clock this morning. And this was before the market actually started to sell off. And so these numbers now are different than they were at 9 o'clock this morning. So we're going to get to the charts. Hey, if you're not a free member of Active Trend Trading, you're not getting my Power Rank stocks, which is basically a culmination of pulling all the premium stocks reported by IBD in their 13 premium watch list. And I come up with a ranking system for that. It'll give you a power rank. And if you want to get in on this, all you got to do is go and basically you'll have a place where you can go and just register with us at Active Trend Trading. You get signed up and then you get notifications of this webinar, and also you get free access to these elite, the power rank and my other elite watch list there on the where this video will be posted on the Active Trend Trading website. So let's get over here and take a real quick look. Hey Steve, I'm gonna do one thing. Let's get to a real quick radio check from you so we can. So hold on, unmute yourself, Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, wow, really nicely. So let me go over the indexes and then I'm going to throw it back to you. What stock are we going to be reviewing today?
We'll be looking at Apple.
Apple. Okay. Is it true that Apple's rotten to the core?
Absolutely.
Okay. Be right back with you. Okay, here we go. I am really glad Steve has joined in with us on these Friday calls. He is a fantastic, technical analyst. He's been basically both in the I'll let him tell you exactly what it, because I just it's right on the tip of my tongue, Steve, and I can't remember the who you've been studying, who you've been studying with, and so, but I know you're IBD, and also you like some of our things we do in Active Trend Trading. Well, what we've got here, guys, is just a really, folks, is we've got basically a potential failure in, that's happening as we watch. What is that potential failure? If we take out this low right here, watch for a failure all the way down to basically potentially down to 290, or 285. A great way to determine how far we might fall is, again, if we close below the 50, that'll be the first time we've closed below the 50 since over in this area here earlier in latter August. If we close below the 50 and take out this swing low right there, what's the number on that? It is the low of 294.33. We take that out and we're very close to it right now. We're about 30 plus cents away from it. We've got TSI pointing down. We highlighted the last couple of weeks that whereas we were making new highs or pushing up towards new highs, our momentum just was not there. We had a negative divergence in our momentum. If we fail there, a really quick way to get a ballpark on where prices could fall is just to go in here and throw a quick line from this high. No, from this high. So we'll go grab it. From that high there, down to these the lows. Let that click in. Now we'll activate that. And we just, now that it's activated, we just slide it down and attach it to these lows, approximation. And as you can see, if we fail here, where are we going? We're going right back down, potentially to support at the 285 level. I'll be interested to see, Steve, as we get into this, if this is going to play out. With the 8-day, the 20-day, and now the 50 kind of rolling over, we may get a plunge to the downside, but looking, I wouldn't be touching this until we get to 290 or 285. Qs. We'll have a similar type of picture with Qs, except look what's happening with the Qs. We had an uptrending line going on here. We have also horizontal support based on the swing low. Take out that swing low, then we're probably going to go to a lower number, 185 all the way down to 180. You can do. I'll let you do the similar drill. Take the high to the area where you anticipate the breakout. This is already actually broken out once and took out this swing low here. And so from 195 down to about 189, it's a $6 move. Subtract $6, we're looking at about 182. So where does that take us? Right down into the support of the other area. TSI pointing down. TSI, negative divergence on the weekly chart. So not a lot to write home about. Like I said, we break this level, we're probably going to be visiting, I would say 182.50 down to 180. Last but not least, our buddy IWM. Wyckoff, that's who it is. Oh, let me get rid of this. I forgot to take the, there we go. Stop that video. There we go. I apologize for that. As you can see, with IWM, it came up, tested at resistance, and has now fallen. And we've been going down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. This number here, 150.23, is a very important number. It is basically where we have broke out from before, and also represents, and I'm not supposed to talk about Fibonacci's on this particular webinar because I want to keep it nice and simple, but it happens to be that is the 618 retracement of this move from up here or down here to up here. So that is oftentimes where you may find some support to turn yourself around. But you don't have to do the hokey pokey. Anyway, but if we break through that, then look out below. We're probably looking down here at the 146, down into this peak zone that had been identified before. Look how many times over the past, oh gosh, several months, it basically on the first trip down, This was back last year. It hit it several times. It broke out. Let's see when we broke out. We broke out on the first part of December 2018. So we may be getting a similar type setup here. If we break out these 145 lows, we're looking at least a $15 drop. So 145 minus 15 takes us right back to the 130. Very interesting how that works out. And so this is looking, pretty negative to the downside. Crossing below the 50. Anytime you get your prices moving below the 50, watch out. And you want to be looking to trade then, probably basically the trend has changed now. So look for bounces back up into the moving averages, take those down to the downside. So that's all I've got, Steve, on the IWMs and the other things of the world. Let me switch over to Apple and you can tell me what.
Okay.
Now, with the market showing, so and I remembered you studied the Wyckoff methods, and I know that those are very powerful. And so now, when we texted back and forth a little bit earlier today, I said, "What do you want to chat about?" And you said Apple. Well, what do you like about Apple?
Okay. What I like is recently on the September 11th, we had a closing high. So we had a breakout just above the prior high in early August.
Okay.
That was very positive for me. Then we've had a pullback, and you'll see today, although earlier today it wasn't such a negative bar, but today and 3 days ago and 6 days ago, we had supply, what Wyckoff would call supply. There were relatively wide range bars on good volume,
right,
to the downside, but we've really made no progress. We've had certainly the move on 920 and on 924 attempt to sell off, but they were not successful. We didn't push lower. So what that suggests is sellers are being absorbed by buyers. So the buyers are getting ready to move this stock higher. And I think the catalyst that's behind that is earnings in about 5 weeks.
okay,
So I think it would surprise me to see Apple break below current levels. And I would say the low of what day was that? The low of 913, which is I wrote it down.
right here.
219.11. No. 217.02.
Okay. Oh.
I would use that as my stop loss.
Oh, 27. Yeah. Okay. Here's what we're looking at, guys. Just look up here at the low. Keep your
the
eye
low
there.
on 913. The low on 913.
Right there.
Yeah. So anyway, I did do an entry on this stock on this. I have an entry yesterday. And what I've been calling the Wilborn alternative entry system.
Okay.
Your system of trading around weakness below the 8, strength above, and then entry the following day, which would have been yesterday, at or near the moving averages. So an entry at an actual position at entry at 219.11 for me.
Okay. So
yes,
what?
Yesterday with.
So you're and what's your stop?
216.97, 5 ticks below the low on 923. So it's about a 1% risk for the trade, provided we don't do any serious gapping through those levels.
Yeah, and so I shared with Steve. I've been watching Apple also, and I like this analysis. Okay, it's holding up really well. It's holding up better than a lot. Yeah, it's holding up a lot better than a lot of other stocks. Yeah. And what I'm looking at right now, I liked Apple a lot better when it looked like the TSI right here was going to cross back up, but it failed. So now I'm sitting there going, darn it. So what I will probably do, Steve, as a carry on with what you were talking about, is I will look towards my this chart, which is my my daily here on the left-hand side, my intraday chart, 30-minute chart, it looks like it's getting ready to turn back around. The question is, you know, do I want to risk a trade in the next week? You said we have earnings out there 5 weeks from now.
Correct.
Right? So another way you could potentially trade this, and I'll just run over here to Apple really quick. Let's just do a real quick analysis of where might it go. Well, we're sitting here at 218.37. It could very well if we take out this little. Hope you guys don't mind if I show you a trade, another trade on this. Okay, well, we've got, well, Dennis Wilborn. What happens when we get the bandwidth? There we go. So okay. So a couple of things we could do. We are really close to a level of support. So I could say, you know what? I think that support is going to hold. So how might I want to trade it? And I think it's going to blow back up through 220 on its way up prior to earnings up to, and the earnings are over here on the, when are earnings on this, Steve?
On the 31st.
Okay, 31st. So I can basically say, I think earnings, you know, through earnings, it's going to take it on up to, and a couple of things I can do. I can do one or two things. I can just extend. I think earnings are going to go all the way up to, let's say 227.50, or not earnings, but 226.50. I'm going to reach that prior to earnings. And so what I can do is set up just a real simple trade on this. Let me show it to you. And here is the simple trade. I want to take a look. Yeah, I want to go out to when we have earnings. Let me blow this open a little bit. This is a potential. Okay, the 31st, I'm going out here too. Okay, and so it's the 31st, or
31st, so November 1 or?
Yeah, so I want to go here to November 1, and I should have fairly good, and what I want to do is I want to buy like the 220. Yeah, like the 220. Because I think the price is going to take it through 220. Yeah, there's 3,000 some odd open. So I'm going to buy a vertical. And my upside target on my vertical is 227.50. So right now I can buy that for $3.26. If prior to earnings, I reach up there towards the 227 level, which I think that's a doable. Right now, my reward risk is a little bit over 1-to-1. My max profit is 425. My max loss is 325. And then I can adjust that and size it appropriately. But that's, to me, a fairly straightforward position. And since I'm doing a debit spread in that case, Steve, it would basically, that's all I could lose on it. You know, basically just the debit itself.
Sure.
My risk is defined. And so that's a really good way to, you know, offer yourself an opportunity to go ahead in that trade. So anybody have any questions on that?
Then Dennis?
Yeah.
If I could make a comment, I think another perspective regarding an option trade is, given that we're going into earnings and I expect a volatility expansion as we get closer to earnings, even if price stays level or slightly down, the trade should still be profitable.
Yes. Yes.
Because volatility expands. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I think it's a sleeper trade in my mind. It's a trade I'm very excited about. I think there are many things supporting a positive outcome.
And so I agree wholeheartedly. What I'll do is let me snip this really quick and I'll send it to everybody who's online. So you'll see a picture of what we're talking about. And let me snip this trade. If you wanted to emulate that, because the other thing that Steve's talking about I agree wholeheartedly. Let's capture that. Let's save it. Yeah, and then I will forward this out to everybody. Apple spread. And this is one of those spreads that I like, Steve, that because basically all you got to do to it is just okay. Where do I plug that in at? Well, I'll have to find out how to put that in there more. Huh. This is not like, I guess I cannot share that, unfortunately. The other thing you can do on this, and so I'm just going to save this really quick, with what Steve was talking about, is just go out here, similar type situation, but we go out here and we just buy a 0.5 or a 0.6 call. And so, you only have to buy a couple of them. And so you get to 215 at 10.55. And what Steve was talking about, you will see implied volatility increase as you get closer to earnings. And so even if it just stays dead in the water, right where it's at, the value of that call is going to probably stay pretty much, up there. But if it breaks out, you benefit a lot immediately. So again, that would be, I'd say the 215 or the 217.
I agree.
So, okay, cool. So guys, thanks, Steve. We wanted to show you guys a couple of different things, approaches for trading this Apple trade going into earnings. I will throw out a couple of other stocks just to keep your eyeballs on. IBM is setting up with a similar type situation. It broke out actually of this old trend line here. It's got resistance at 145. But look, it is above the moving averages. It is stacked to move higher prior to earnings. This one has earnings coming up on 10/16. The other one I like right now, Steve, I know it doesn't have really good fundamentals, but the technical chart on it looks really good, and that is Boeing.
I like it.
Yeah, Boeing, it is in a zone right here. Look for, I don't want to buy it where it's at right now, but if it comes down and retest, here's that little box we were talking about on a lot of other things. If it comes down and tests into that box, the bottom of that box is about 375. That may give you an opportunity to jump on a trade on Boeing, standing by and waiting for the earnings. So, okay, well, we went a little bit longer than we normally do. Steve, thanks a lot, man. Thank really you. Great. Let me get in there and just wrap things up, and then we'll call it a day. Thanks, buddy. And do we have a Honolulu IBD meeting?
Yes, we do. I need to send a notice out. It's on the 1st of October.
1st of October. Okay, so that is so. Excellent. We'll be looking forward to that. So let me go back to, there we go. So just wrapping things up real quick. Guys, hey, if you need a speaker for your group, I would love to do one in person and or by webinar for you. I've got the Bay Area Moneymaker webinar coming up on October 5th. Steve just mentioned we've got the Honolulu IBD meeting coming up on the 1st of October. And you can find out information about that on the meetup site for Honolulu. Then premium members, more live market trades. We've gone to doing a live video during market hours, and then a prep time, the hour after market on Mondays. And so, hey, if you've never heard of the Active Trend Traders, I encourage you to just go and just stop and go to this website. Get lined up. You'll get your free weekly elite watch list. And in case you're wondering, about me and my watch list. I was highlighted, one of the traders highlighted in this book by Amy Smith for William O'Neill, and William O'Neill says, hey, the people in this book can show you how to find the top 2% of stocks. And so if that's what you're looking for, hey, just sign up here. And again, no obligation, and I don't follow you back up and say, hey, I want to hit you over the head with something else. So hey, remember 2019, year of completion, and 2019 is almost over. We'll see if 2019 winds up with ending like 2018. Whatever happens, we know with the tweets that are going to be going on, it's going to be a very interesting end of the year as we move into the election year 2020. So premium members, next will be up with the final hour. And so until next time, aloha, trade well and prosper. Have a great weekend. Mahalo and God bless. Steve, thank you very much for joining us, and everybody else. Aloha. God bless everybody.